Part 73. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 721. The old lady didn't believe it, she even wondered if this was Musei's trick to refuse or welcome. Otherwise, who can resist wealth and power? Is this child too young to taste the taste of power, so he doesn't understand its beauty? Or, this is indeed a misunderstanding, is she not Sidhu Yan's child at all? The old lady had complicated thoughts and stared at the TV without saying a word. Mr. Sidhu called to inform his subordinates and cronies that because of Musei's public visit, they wanted to change the preparatory plan for last night. While waiting, the interview on TV continued. This host's hosting style is notoriously sharp, and he never soft-spoken when scolding politicians. In the face of Muse's experience, he even expressed his strong dissatisfaction with the current general election. It should be a solemn and sacred thing, but it involves such a big lie. In order to compete for approval ratings and fool the public, I not wanting to question the character of this campaign, but I can't help but ask, what's wrong with this country? Next, Musei claimed in the program that her biological father's surname was Ruan and her biological mother's surname was Su. In order to prove her identity, she also showed a family photo. In the photo is a young couple holding a baby, and it can be seen that the man in it is somewhat similar to Sidhu Yan when he was young, so it can also explain why Musei looks exactly like Sidhu Yan. The host asked, Miss Mu, now that the facts have been clarified, is there anything else you want to say to the audience? I hope the reporters surrounding my house will leave as soon as possible. Because of this incident, I have not been able to go to school for 2 days. Musei smiled, with sarcasm in her words. I think presidential candidates should first learn how to love the country. Only the flowers of the future can know how to love the whole country. Please campaign rationally and don't bring trouble to Chiyu again. Yes, I think after this incident, Ms. Mu should have taught our future president a very good lesson. The host asked again, what is Miss Mu's plan next? Oh, I plan to go back to my hometown and burn some paper for my biological parents. They must have been frightened underground. The host laughed. Musei's exclusive interview program, under the deliberate arrangement of Murong Cheng and Guliang, was circulated on all major platforms on the internet at the fastest speed. The situation was reversed overnight, and those who had insulted Sidhu Yan as a heartless man began to condemn the despicable methods of the candidates. The public hates being fooled. Although it was unclear which candidate was framing Sidhu Yan, the one with the closest approval rating to Sidhu Yan undoubtedly became the number one suspect, and the number of votes plummeted immediately. The operation team of the Sidhu family responded in a timely manner, and Sidhu Yan's approval rate rose again, even far exceeding before. The reputation was restored and the campaign went smoothly, but the atmosphere in Sidhu's house was still depressed. The only happy person in the family may be Ningyue. But she didn't dare to show such a happy mood. She behaved more cautiously every day, turned down many appointments, and stayed with the old lady wholeheartedly. In the evening, Sidhu Yan finished his public speech and returned home. As usual, he first went to the study to see Mr. Sidhu. The study room was filled with smoke. The old gentleman was holding a cigarette in his hand. His old face was as silent as a quiet ancient pool. Dad, you are getting old, and the doctor told you to smoke less. Mr. Sidhu looked up at him, put out the cigarette in the ashtray, and said calmly, how is today? Did it go well? Sidhu Yan nodded lightly. The voters are very enthusiastic, and the atmosphere is very good. It seems that the impact of the last time has subsided. The old man sighed heavily. However, because of this, we missed the only chance to recognize the blood of Sidhu's family. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 722. For an old man who is nearly 70 years old, there is nothing more regretful than leaving his children and grandchildren outside. If Muzi is really not from the Sidhu family as she said, that would be fine. But just in case. In case she is really Ruan Lee's child born to Sidhu, Mr. Sidhu might not be able to let it go until he dies. Sidhu Yan is his only son, and his bloodline has not been passed on, which is the greatest sorrow for the old man. In the study, Sidhu Yan remained silent the whole time, and he also couldn't relax. Muzi publicly stated that she has nothing to do with the Sidhu family, which means that no matter whether she and Sidhu Yan are related by blood, they cannot return to the Sidhu family. Otherwise, even if she turns back on her promise, the ridicule and insults will be thrown at her 100 times and 1,000 times, and the Sidhu family will not be spared. Rationally, he knew that the best result was right now, but emotionally, it was hard for him to accept it. Muzi, is she his daughter? Muzi didn't care about Sidhu's entanglement and pain at all. She only felt that she had solved a big problem, and from then on, she no longer had to worry about who would dictate her life in the name of her parents and family. In the last week of October, Muzi and Murong Cheng went to the mountain to pick pomegranates. The pomegranates are all ripe, and the fruits are bright red and plump, hanging heavily on the branches one by one, making people happy when they see them. Some pomegranates are too tall, even Murong Cheng can't reach them, so he hugged Muzi and asked her to ride on his shoulders to pick them. The two of them frolicked on the mountain, playing wildly until sweaty. A cart full of pomegranates was brought home, some were squeezed into juice, and some were peeled and eaten. Xiao also likes to eat, and babbles a few times from time to time, but it has a quirk. It thinks the pomegranate seeds are shiny and beautiful, so it collects a lot and hides them in the grass under the eaves. It just so happens that the temperature in Xinjiang city has warmed up these days, the sun is warm, there is no wind or rain, and the pomegranate seeds have sprouted one after another. Xiao couldn't find her baby anymore, she was puzzled, she tilted her head, walked around the seedlings grown from pomegranate seeds, then chattered, and then pawed with her paws, making Muzi burst into laugh. Bai Wei kindly said to Xiao, Xiao, don't dig it, all your pomegranates have sprouted, if you dig a few more times, there will be no pomegranate seedlings. When Muzi heard this, she laughed even harder, tears streaming down her face. Bai Wei found a flower pot, transplanted the pomegranate seedlings into the pot, and kept them in the house. Otherwise, the temperature will cool down in a few days, and these seedlings will definitely freeze to death outside. Raising pomegranates means good luck, more children, and more blessings, Bai Wei said while watering. Both Muzi and Murong Cheng showed surprise at the same time. Didn't Bai Wei always think that Muzi was too young to fall in love and get married? Why is it acceptable to have children now? Bai Wei continued, Xiao has planted pomegranates this year, and will surely lay a lot of eggs next year. Murong Cheng. Muzi. Puff. Both siblings fell on the sofa laughing wildly. Bai Wei looked at them with a blank face, what's the matter? It's weird. Muzi laughed so hard that she couldn't breathe, she thought to herself, it's such a good life, I can't get enough of it. In the blink of an eye, it was November, and the preliminary results of the judicial assessment came out. Muzi entered the interview stage without any suspense. The interview results were announced a week later, and Muzi was admitted to the Hua Judicial Training Institute with an absolute advantage. It is unimaginable to enter the Judicial Training Institute at the age of 17. The students sent blessings one after another, and someone anonymously sent flowers, a bunch of lilies of the valley. Muzi's heart was sweet, thinking that Murong Cheng was playing tricks again. After school, she walked out of the school gate with a bouquet of lilies of the valley, but saw Murong Cheng get out of the car, holding a bouquet of white roses in his hand. Muzi froze in place. She suddenly remembered that in her previous life, when she was admitted to the Judicial Training Institute, Muzening happened to send such a bouquet of lilies of the valley. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 723. This flower is quite beautiful. Cheng saw the lily of the valley in her hand and said casually, thinking it was given to Muzi by his classmates. Muzi took the white rose in his hand, lowered her head and got into the car. Maybe it's a coincidence. She wasn't sure, but once she had that association, she felt that the bunch of flowers in her hand was like a hot potato, and it was uncomfortable to hold in her hand. Cheng said, Mom made a table of dishes, all of which you like, and even bought cakes for you to celebrate. Next year we might as well move to Jingling, and after you graduate from the Judicial Training Institute, we will move back to Qingjiang. That way we won't be able to see Jinuan and Zhuangqia. Muzi felt a little reluctant to have friends. Chen knocked on her forehead, little stupid pig, they will also go to college, so they may not be in Xinjiang by then. Yes, Muzi realized it. The third grade is already halfway through, and there is only half a semester left. Many foreign schools start early. If you are a student who is going to study abroad, you may leave after the new year. By then, there will be more than half of the students in the class, right? From now on, we will go our separate ways, and we may not see each other again in the rest of our lives, which is quite sad to think about. When the car was about to reach the gate of Mu's house, Chen received a call. He didn't know what was said on the other end. He hung up the phone and said to Muzi, you go back first. If Mom asks, just say I have something to come back later. Is there anything important? Muzi asked worriedly. Cheng said, it's a call from the hospital. Recently, Huo Zheng showed signs of waking up. The nurse saw him open his eyes just now, so she told me to come over, maybe it can help wake him up. Muzi frowned, the vegetative state showed signs of waking up, which might be good news, but when she heard it, she was inexplicably terrified. If Huo Shizhen recovers, will it affect you? Muzi asked him. She remembered that Cheng said that the patriarch's position was guarded by Huo Zheng. If Huo Zheng recovered, would he return the position to Huo Zheng? If it was returned to Huo Zheng, would Huo Zheng let Cheng go? Everyone knows the story of unloading the mill and killing the donkey, but Muzi doesn't know Huo Zheng's character, so it's inconvenient to comment. Cheng smiled and patted Muzi's head, don't worry, the escape route is already being arranged. Of course his things must be returned, but mine will not be given away. Cheng has been in the Huo family for so many years, not just making wedding dresses for others, but also running his own power. In this regard, Muzi believed that Cheng was more vigilant than she was, so she didn't say any more, and only asked him to call home as much as possible no matter how busy he was. Muzi got off the car in front of the gate of Mu's house, watched Cheng leave in the car, turned around until the shadow of the car was gone, and walked unhurriedly into the big iron gate entwined with branches and patterns. She was holding flowers in her hands, lily of the valley, linghui, and white roses, and she couldn't help but have a preference in her heart. In the past, she thought roses were very vulgar, just like Cheng, who was vulgar and rude. He neither knew romance nor flair, even if one day he suddenly became elegant, it must be to cover up his hooligan thoughts. But now, she thinks roses are very good and likes them very much. I met a maid on the way, and Muzi casually gave Lily of the Valley to someone else, who smiled and said, "Ah, this flower is really beautiful, thank you Miss Muzi." Muzi smiled and was in a good mood. At this time, I heard laughter from far ahead. It was Mu Rongxian who was laughing. He seemed very happy, and the hearty laughter spread far from the living room. The maid said, "Master Zening is back, and Miss Mu Ling is back too." No wonder Mu Rongxian was so happy. It was almost the end of the year, and a family reunion was a good sign. He had been worried that something might happen to Mu Zhenning outside, and he almost called the police. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 724. Their family is very affectionate, but Murong Cheng and Mu Zi are out of tune with them and cannot share this joy. Holding the roses in her hands, Mu Zi continued to walk forward, thinking that it would be better to go to the island again this Chinese New Year, as it would be too boring to stay at Mu's house. When passing by the living room, Mu Rongxian stood at the door and greeted her, and said kindly, "Zizi, come quickly." Mu Zi hesitated for a moment, but finally walked over. As soon as he entered the living room, he saw Mu Zhenning sitting on the sofa. He was wearing a black suit and black pants, his skin looked extremely pale. Even if the sunlight outside the window shone on him, it still made people feel cold and gloomy. Mu Zhenning raised his eyes and looked at Mu Zi calmly and indifferently, as if he didn't know her. At this time, a person next to him hurriedly stood up and greeted Mu Zi, "Little aunt. It's Mu Ling. I haven't seen her for a year, but Mu Ling has changed a lot. She has grown taller and more beautiful, her charming and lively nature has been restrained, and at the same time, she has also lost her liveliness. She looks quiet and dignified, with a trace of nervousness in her expression. She is still afraid of Mu Zi." Mu Zi smiled slightly, "Xiaoling is back, when will I go to school again?" "Not going for now." Mu Ling glanced at Mu Zhenning subconsciously, and replied, "Uncle said that I can help the family share some burden, so he asked me to come back and start working as an assistant in the company." "Really, that's pretty good." Mu Zi greeted casually. Mu Zhenning suddenly said, "This flower is not bad, but it's too rich and colorful, it's not suitable for you." Mu Zi smiled faintly, "I like thick and colorful ones now, and I'm happy just looking at them." Mu Rongxian didn't know that there was a hint of ingenuity hidden in the two people's words, so he interjected, "The new year is almost here, and it's time to put some festive flowers at home. I'm back too, this is double happiness. I thought, we should hold a banquet next month. Celebrate and celebrate." Mu Zi couldn't help laughing. Although Mu Zhenning and Mu Ling's return was good news for the Mu family, it was not enough to hold a banquet to celebrate. Mu Rongxian is using the name of her success in the exam to find a name for himself to hold a banquet. At the end of December, there are both Christmas and New Year's Eve. Rich people are scrambling to hold a banquet, but Mu's family is embarrassed. At that time, it was the anniversary of Mr. Mu's death. Because of this, Mu Rongxian missed many social opportunities, but now he has found opportunities. Mu Zi didn't object to this. It is a custom to hold a banquet to celebrate being admitted to a good school. Today, some students in the class asked her when the banquet will be held, and some students discussed in private, guessing whether the Mu family will hold a banquet for an adopted daughter. Mu Zi smiled and asked Mu Rongxian when was the right time. Mu Rongxian said that there will be a banquet at the beginning of the month, and the anniversary of death at the end of the month. There should be no conflict between the two. When the time comes, remember to invite more classmates and friends to come, the more people will be lively, Mu Rongxian said with a smile on his face. He knew that Mu Zi had made a lot of contacts now, so he no longer dared to underestimate him, and the tone of his words subconsciously revealed be kind and flattering. "Okay, big brother," Mu Zi responded, "you have fixed the date and let me know, I will send them an invitation." It happened that Mu Yun came down slowly from the stairs. She was carrying a leather bag and wearing a wide chestnut-colored camel hair coat. She has always been very good at dressing up, but recently, for some reason, her complexion is not very good, and she looks haggard. Mu Rongxian called her to stop and talked about the banquet at home in December. Mu Yun was stunned for a moment, and then said, "I'm not in good health recently, so I may not be able to participate." Mu Rongxian was immediately annoyed. Go to the hospital for treatment if you are not in good health. What does it look like to be sick every day? Mu Yun stood stiffly at the door, and after hearing Mu Rongxuan's scolding, she hurried away with an ugly expression. Mu Rongxian became more and more angry. The bigger it is, the more outrageous it is. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 725. Mu Zi looked at Mu Yun's back as she walked away, feeling weird. Then I thought again, who in this family is not weird? Isn't Mu Zening, who has been missing for a long time, weird? Isn't Mu Ling, whose temperament has changed drastically, weird? And she and Mu Rongcheng, isn't it weird? Everyone is weird, everyone has secrets. As long as it doesn't hinder her, Mu Zi is not interested in other people's secrets. After chatting about holding the banquet, Mu Zi was about to go back to the small mansion, and Mu Rongxian said shyly, Zi, actually, you can move to the front with Aunt Bai. This was the time to worry about parties, people seeing them living alone in the little house in the back, and causing gossip. Mu Zi smiled, no need, Mom and I are used to living together, and Sisi is still in the house. If we move to the front, it's easy to scare the guests. After she finished speaking, she waved her hand and left the living room. Mu Ling looked at Mu Zi's back, his eyes flickered, he seemed a little apprehensive. He lowered his voice and said to Mu Zening beside him, Uncle. No rush. Mu Zening interrupted her, and patted Mu Ling's shoulder reassuringly, have a good sleep, and get back the jet lag first. There was no expression on his face, and the words he said were also faint, like a deep evening mist. When Mu Rongxian heard their voices, he thought it was Mu Zening who wanted to teach Mu Ling how to manage the company, so he couldn't hold back the smile on his face, and said, yes, Xiao Ling, you just came back from abroad, hurry up, rest. When you have enough energy, it is not too late to start working again. Mu Ling nodded obediently, and went upstairs to her room. In the living room, Mu Rongxian took Mu Zening to chat for a while, and asked him where he went on his trip, why there was no news, and whether something happened, with a concerned look. There is no signal in the mountains, kerosene lamps are lit in every house, and there is no electricity, Mu Zening said with a smile. After I came out of the mountains, my mobile phone was left on the road, so I haven't contacted my family. Mu Rongxian sighed and persuaded him, it's not good to go somewhere to relax. Why do you have to go to those poor places? Don't do this again next time. Mu Zening smiled faintly, well, it won't be like this again. This kind of experience, once in a lifetime, is enough. Mu Zi returned to Xiaoyang building, and after having dinner with Bai Wei, she went back to her room to rest. Through the window, Mu Zi could see someone by the window on the second floor of the opposite villa, because it was already late and the lights on the opposite side were not turned on, so it was vague, but Mu Zi knew that the person should be Mu Zening. This feeling made Mu Zi very uncomfortable, and her heart was a little hairy. She used to think that the big tree in front of the window was an eyesore, but now that the tree has been cut down and the view is wide and transparent, she feels uneasy about being peeped at. Mu Zi drew the curtains. When Mu Zening left, he said a lot of decisive words, but this time when he came back, he seemed especially calm, so calm to the point of indifference. Is it time for him to figure it out, so he is relieved? No, if he was really relieved, he wouldn't have sent that bouquet of lily of the valley flowers on purpose today. Since he is still obsessed, why is the current calm? What does he want to do? Mu Zi was upset, and she was a little impetuous. The presence of Mu Zening made her feel uncomfortable. She couldn't help thinking of Mu Rongcheng, thinking about him over and over again, as if doing so would calm herself down and stop worrying about Mu Zening's weirdness. She thought again, if Mu Rongcheng didn't know that Mu Zening was back, would he be jealous again? Thinking of this, Mu Zi's mood suddenly became much lighter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 726. On the first night when Mu Zening came back, Mu Zi had nightmares all night. It's more like a memory than a nightmare. She dreamed of how she died, the body was soaked in the bottom of the river, and the flesh gradually rotted and turned white. It was too scary, and too hopeless. The soul is wandering and helpless, just guarding the corpse so helplessly, with no hope in sight. When Mu Zi woke up, she found that her face was wet and covered in cold sweat. Panting slightly, her chest tight and upset, she simply put on her clothes and got up, and opened the window to let fresh air pour in. As soon as he raised his eyes, he saw Mu Zening in the distance. He was dressed in black and sat in the desolate and empty garden. There was a bag of corn kernels on the log bench. He took out a small handful and fed the little ones one by one. Mu Zi's expression suddenly froze, as if frozen by the cold morning air. Xiao never gets close to outsiders. Because Murongcheng is seldom at home, Xiao doesn't even get close to Murongcheng, unless it's Mu Zi or Bai Wei. No one wants it to stay by your side so quietly. Mu Zi pursed her lips, immediately put on her coat and hurried downstairs, ran all the way to the garden, and stopped 3 or 5 meters away from Mu Zening. Xiao ya, Mu Zi shouted, come back. Mu Zening stood up, and Xiao jumped onto Mu Zening's shoulders, shaking the black feathers on his wings. Mu Zi's voice was lowered, with a slight sternness, come here. Xiao tilted her head, as if hesitating a little, flapped her wings, and finally flew to Mu's side. Mu Zening showed a faint smile, his smile had no warmth and made people feel cold. What are you afraid of? He asked. Mu Zi ignored him, turned around and walked back with Xiao Ya in her arms. Aren't you curious about what I gained from this trip? Mu Zening asked again. Mu Zi's walking stopped for a moment, and she stopped in place. Mu Zening approached from behind her, unhurriedly, bowed his head close to her ear, and said softly, do you remember how Qiao Jingjia died? She was burned alive. The neighbors heard her screams and wanted to save her, but the door couldn't be opened, the fire brigade didn't come for a long time, she kept yelling inside for a full 20 minutes, and then her voice became smaller and smaller. When she was carried out, the whole body is like a coke. Do you really think this is an accident? Why are you telling me these things? Mu Zi was unmoved. Qiao Jingjia died because of you. Who were the people who knew she called that day? Mu Zening smiled, there are you, me, and him. Mu Zi's hand was tightly clenched. You're wrong, she said indifferently. Qiao Jingjia left Mu's house later, she could go anywhere and meet anyone. Mu Zening, it's meaningless for you to tell me these things now. Mu Zening smiled and shook his head lightly, you are so cute now, how much do you love him? You don't even hesitate to deceive yourself. Mu Zi took a deep breath, turned around and looked directly into Mu Zening's eyes. This is not self-deception, Mu Zi said earnestly, you want to say that Murongcheng killed Qiao Jingjia, don't you? Then show evidence, don't be like a gloomy villain who provokes you from time to time, that will make me look down on you. Mu Zening narrowed his eyes slightly, if I show evidence, do you dare to see it? What evidence do you have? Mu Zi asked. I have witnesses. The corners of Mu Zening's mouth curled up slightly, with a half smile, I can arrange for you to meet, but you can't tell anyone, and you can only go alone. Mu Zi seemed to hear an extremely funny joke. How can I trust you? Mu Zi looked at him with a sneer, maybe you want to kidnap me. Without looking at Mu Zening again, she turned and left with Xiao in her arms. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 727. Muzi I returned to Xiaoanglu, let Xiao go, and sat alone on the sofa in the living room. She seemed to be calm and composed in front of Mu Zhenning, but her heart was already in a mess. Every word Mu Zhenning said hit her heart straight. The messy mind was shaken high and scattered like dust, unable to calm down. What is the problem? Is Mu Zhenning deliberately deceiving her? Could it be, does he really have a witness? A witness who can prove Murong Cheng guilty? Muzi I panicked. She dare not think. If Qiao Jingjia's death is really related to Murong Cheng, what does it mean? It means, the secret that Qiao Jingjia is about to reveal will be very unfavorable to Murong Cheng. No, she shouldn't doubt Murong Cheng. When she received Qiao Jingjia's call, Murong Cheng was with her the whole night, there was no way he would have time to arrange this murder. But what if she fell asleep? He only needs to order a word, and someone outside will take care of it for him. Musa bent down and hugged her knees tightly, feeling that her chest was pierced by an iron cone, she couldn't breathe and felt pain. At this time, she thought again, maybe this is Mu Zhenning's purpose, he is in pain, so he also tortures me, let me suffer with him. How much Murong Cheng loves her, she knows very well that he is the least likely person in this world to harm her. Thinking of this, Mu Zi's heart calmed down. It's okay, she inhaled slowly, and said softly to herself, it's just a psychological trap, don't fall into his trap. Mu Zi felt that Mu Zhenning was playing tricks, saying that it was false to have witnesses in his hands, but it was true that he had malicious intentions. As long as she didn't mess herself up, Mu Zhenning would have nothing to do with her. She tidied up her troubled thoughts, and she was no longer impetuous, but unavoidably uneasy. Especially thinking of Xiaoya's abnormality, Mu Zi felt that Mu Zhenning's existence was a threat, as if it would ruin her peaceful and beautiful life at any time. This feeling made her both uneasy and frightened. Because of fear of Mu Zhenning, Mu Zi stayed in the house all day and did not go to the garden. She used to like to take Xiao for a walk in the garden, but now she can only give up. When night came, she lay on the bed, thinking of the nightmare last night, feeling even more uncomfortable. After tossing and turning, it was difficult to fall asleep, and she even subconsciously resisted falling asleep, afraid of having another nightmare, so Mu Zi simply got up, and went to Murong Cheng's room next door lightly. He's not at home, but there is his breath on the pillow and quilt, maybe it's an illusion, just take it as a kind of psychological comfort. Mu Zi hugged the quilt tightly. Murong Cheng didn't come back until midnight. He stayed in the hospital all day, tired. The first thing he did after returning home was to go into Mu Zi's room to see her. There was no one in Mu Zi's room. Murong Cheng was slightly taken aback. Where did Mu Zi go? In the bathroom? Still not at home? Went to a classmate's house for a sleepover? Murong Cheng returned to his room suspiciously, raised his hand to turn on the light, and saw a bulge on his bed, his thick, jet-black long hair scattered outside the quilt, and the room was filled with a faint fragrance. Murong Cheng laughed dumbfounded. How did you get into his bed? Could it be that the little thing wants to change rooms again? For the past 2 days, his attention was all on Huo Zheng, he didn't pay attention to the movements at home, and he didn't know that Mu Zhenning was back. Murong Cheng walked over and pulled down the quilt slightly, revealing Mu Zheng's white and charming little face. If Mu Zi felt something, she closed her eyes and hugged his arm. She was sleeping in a daze, she sniffed it with her small nose, and immediately frowned in disgust. It smells so bad, it smells like disinfectant. After staying in the hospital for so long, of course there will be a smell. Looking at her delicate appearance, Murong Cheng was a little funny, and said, "Wait for me to wash up." "Wait a little longer." She closed her eyes and muttered, holding his arm like a bird, reluctant to let go, "Wait until I fall asleep, and then you go wash. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 728. Murong Cheng's skin is warm, his breath is clear, his voice is low and slightly hoarse, everything about him makes Mu Zi feel at ease. She hugged Murong Cheng's forearm, her face was softly next to him, full of attachment. Murong Cheng enjoyed it a lot. There is nothing more satisfying than being attached to yourself by the woman you like. She can't live without him. This knowledge made Murong Cheng's heart swell, and the sense of happiness was like a rising tide, gurgling and flooding his mind. No matter what rationality, he bowed his head and kissed as soon as he thought about it, deeply sucking in the fragrance. The kiss was lingering, inseparable. After it was over, 2 touches of beautiful clouds floated on her cheeks, her tender red lips parted slightly, and she let out a seductive panting. Murong Cheng felt tormented. Her exhaled breath had a warm fragrance, and when it brushed against his skin, his muscles would tense, and his lower abdomen was tight and painful. Murong couldn't take it anymore, he pulled away and went to the bathroom to take a shower. When he came back again, he saw that Mu Zi had already sat up, leaning on the head of the bed, as if he was waiting for him specially. Murong Cheng likes her half asleep and half awake appearance, a little dazed and cute, and a little lazy and charming. Murong Cheng lay down on the bed, raised his arms to hold her in his arms, and said with a smile, "What's the matter, you're so good." Mu Zi leaned on his chest, shook her head, wanted to say it was all right, but hesitated a bit. Mu Zening is back, she said softly. Not only did he come back, but he also said a lot of malicious things to slander Murong Cheng, trying to separate her and Murong Cheng. Mu Zi didn't intend to tell Murong Cheng those words. She believes that as long as she is firm enough and does not make wild suspicions, Mu Zening's little tricks will have nowhere to go. What's more, now that Huo Zheng is awake, Murong Cheng has a lot to think about, and she doesn't want him to affect his mood. He harassed you? Murong Cheng asked alertly. Mu Zi thought about it carefully. Harassment. It seems that there is no such thing. Except for sending a bouquet of lilies of the valley, Mu Zening never even took the initiative to find her. The first meeting was when Murong Xian called her into the living room, and the second meeting was when she took the initiative to run to the garden. When Mu Zening came back this time, he was eerily quiet. Like a dark poisonous snake, it lurks in the dark, waiting for its prey to reveal its flaws, and then, it makes a fatal blow. Mu Zi felt a creepy feeling in her heart. It didn't harass me, but I always think he's weird. She whispered to Murong Cheng, I was shocked when I saw Xiao with him today. Xiao? Murong Cheng raised his eyebrows slightly, a little surprised. Mu Zi said, I opened the window and saw him feeding corn in the garden for Xiao to eat. You don't know how to raise a white-eyed wolf, Murong Cheng scolded Xiao. If you have a little something delicious, you will rebel. Mu Zi felt that what he said was wrong. Crows are not dogs, they are very vigilant, unless they are fed by someone they know well, they will not pay attention at all. Okay, don't think about it. Murong Cheng kissed her forehead and said softly, sleep, I will take you out to play tomorrow. It was already 3 o'clock in the morning, Mu Zi was extremely sleepy, and lying in Murong Cheng's arms was very comfortable. She soon fell asleep with peace of mind. Murong Cheng put his arms around her and closed his eyes. Both of them slept too late, and didn't wake up at 7 or 8 o'clock the next morning. The sound of hurried footsteps sounded in the corridor of the room. Bai Wei slapped Murong Cheng's door fiercely. Rong Cheng. Are you there? Have you seen your sister? She's not in the room, I've looked everywhere. The door was unlocked. Bai Wei suspected that her son hadn't come back all night, and when she opened the door, she saw 2 people on the bed sitting up sleepily. Bai Wei looked at them in shock. Are you still human? She was so angry that her face was white, her body swayed, and she was about to faint. Muzi I suddenly woke up with fright. She quickly stood up and said, "Mom. Nothing happened. Nothing happened to us. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again." Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 729. Muzi's words brought Bai Wei back to her senses. She supported the door, and opened her eyes with difficulty to look at her daughter. Seeing that although Muzi's pajamas were messy, they were still tightly stitched, and Bai Wei was slightly relieved. If Muzi was allowed to be spoiled by her son at the age of 17, she would really have no face to meet the underground Ruan Li. Bai Wei walked in with a cold face, and inspected the room sternly. Her eyes flicked from the trash can, but she didn't see any suspicious toilet paper balls, condoms or similar packaging boxes. Still, she was very angry. "Rong Cheng, you promised me." Before Bai Wei could finish speaking, Murong Cheng immediately interrupted her. "You can't just enter my sister's room, right? Mom, you can't be so partial, this is obviously my room." Murong Cheng called Chu and said, "I worked overtime until midnight, I was tired and sleepy, I fell asleep right after I came back yesterday. Who knew there was someone else on the bed?" Muzi pinches the flesh on his waist under the quilt. Murong Cheng immediately lifted the quilt. "Look, she snatched my bed and pinched me." Muzi withdrew her hand in embarrassment, and retorted, "I didn't know you would come back when I was sleeping. You can go to sleep in my room, why do you have to squeeze with me?" "Zizi, you've been squeezing me. It's because you are too big and take up too much space." The two brothers and sisters were arguing on the bed like childish children, and Bai Wei's cold face couldn't hold back anymore, and she wanted to laugh. "Okay, you two, come down and have breakfast," Bai Wei said helplessly, and turned to leave the room. When Bai Wei left, Muzi glared at Murong Cheng angrily, got out of bed and put on slippers. Murong Cheng smiled and said, "Turn your face after sleeping with me." Muzi faced him with the back of her head and went out to wash up. After breakfast, Murong Cheng told Bai Wei that he wanted to take Muzi out to play. Bai Wei seems to have figured it out. Since she promised them to be together, it's meaningless to always act like a wolf guard, and she should give the two of them some space to get along occasionally. During this period of time, Zizi studied very hard for the exam, so she should go out and play. Bai Wei said, "Remember to come back early, don't play too late." Muzi thought that Murong Cheng would take her to the villa on the mountain. Unexpectedly, Murong Cheng took her to the Huo Group's Huake Entertainment City. "Are you taking me to gamble?" Muzi laughed. "No way, I'm not 18 years old yet." "There is a carnival entertainment hall." Murong Cheng led her to the other side. "The weather is too cold recently, it's too painful to go outdoors, let's have fun here today." Passing by a waiter, Murong Cheng took 2 drinks from the tray, took one for himself, and handed one to Muzi. The surrounding music was loud, and from time to time there was the wonderful sound of winning the lottery, and even the most common slot machines were full of people. The entire casino was overcrowded, but the entertainment hall was quieter. Of course, quietness is only a relative term. Muzi still feels noisy, and doesn't understand what there is to do here. Unlike Murong Cheng, she devoted herself to studying all day long, and was not good at eating, drinking, and playing. She was at a loss for all kinds of machines and games in the amusement hall, and didn't know how to play them. Murong Cheng asked her to hold the doll. "It's hard to pinch." Muzi was not interested. "You try." Murong Cheng pushed her over and handed her a stack of coins. Muzi didn't hold out hope, and tried once, but she didn't expect that the clip firmly clamped the doll she wanted, and it didn't fall off. "Clamped," she said excitedly, and immediately tried a second time. As a result, Today's luck was super good, and I was able to catch 5 or 6 times out of 10 times. She almost emptied the dolls in the glass cabinet. Muzi, I couldn't be happier. Once her mood lifted, she completely forgot about the haze brought by Muzening. Murong Cheng was helping her with the doll, with a gentle smile in his eyes. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 730. Muzi I carried more than 20 dolls, and she gave up when she couldn't hold them anymore. She was not stupid, she knew that Murong Cheng must have done something, but she was still surprised and asked, "What's going on? I couldn't catch it before." The claw machine is actually a kind of gambling machine. The grip and sensitivity can be set artificially. If the probability is higher, a strong grip will occur once in 20 times. If the probability is set lower, a strong grip will be generated only once in 100 times. Murong Cheng looked at her jokingly, and said with a smile, "I had someone set up a 100% strong grip, but you grabbed it 10 times and only got it 5 times. Do you think you're stupid?" "Because I have to choose," Musili said confidently. "Some dolls are easy to catch, but they are not good looking. I am not willing to catch them." Murong Cheng laughed. Seeing that she was in a better mood, he took her to watch a poker show again. This was a fun show in the casino, which combined magic tricks and finger stunts. Musa was attracted by the performer's sensitive fingers, and kept marveling, feeling incredible. When she merged into this atmosphere, she no longer felt noisy, but instead felt that it was noisy and joyous, singing and dancing peacefully. After watching the performance, Murong Cheng led her to the cafeteria to eat. The food in the casino is also very special. There is a kind of cake made in the shape of dice, and a kind of pie with the jam painted 777. The most interesting thing is a dessert called golden fish cake. Once you bite open the fish belly, golden beans fall out. The golden beans are made of cornmeal and glutinous rice flour. They are soft, glutinous, and chewy, sweet and delicious. This kind of fish cake was made and eaten right away, so Muzi asked Murong Cheng to help her wait in line, while she went to the bathroom by herself. When she came out of the restroom, Muzi saw a man and a woman arguing in the men's restroom. She was surprised because that woman was Mu Yun. Muzi dodged subconsciously and hid her body behind the wide leaves of indoor green plants, so as not to be seen and embarrass each other. Mu Yun was losing her temper at the man. "Every time I have to wait. How long do I have to wait? Do you think I don't know what your mother is planning? Recently you are dating Miss Lee, your mom wants you to marry her? Doesn't she? It's just an ordinary entertainment." The man's voice was low and low, wanting to make a big deal a small one. "My mother invited me to our house as a guest, so I can't ignore it. Besides, we didn't do anything, just go and see her at a concert." "I think you want to do something, but they don't want to," Mu Yun said coldly. "Since you have something in mind, wouldn't it be an eyesore for me to stand between you two? I wish you a happy life together." After finishing speaking, he turned around and left, and the man hurried to catch up. "That's just what my mother meant, you misunderstood me," the man explained. "Don't be angry, come out to play today and be happy. I promise to make it clear to my mother when I go back." While explaining, coaxing, and persuading, Mu Yun's anger seemed to have subsided a little, but her face was still ugly. "I'm not in the mood to play. When will you tell your mother clearly about the two of us, and then contact me?" Mu Yun walked away with a cold face. The man sighed and felt disappointed, so he went to have fun with his friends. Seeing that they were gone, Muzi came out from behind the green plant and went to find Murong Cheng. In Murong Cheng's hand was a plate of freshly baked golden fish cakes, golden and fragrant. When Muzi saw it, her eyes lit up a little. "Wow! I'll eat it later, it's still hot now." Murong Cheng moved the plate away and asked her, "Why have you been here for so long? Mu Zi then told Murong Cheng what happened just now. It seems that the other party is stepping on two boats. Mu Zi seldom showed gossip, and sighed, Mu Yun is very powerful, it seems that she wants to break up with her words, but in fact, every sentence hooks the other party, making life impossible. If you are angry, you have to coax her.